Welcome everyone. Today I am going to show you how strong the Caro Kann is at beginner level. The Caro Kann starts with e4, c6, d4 and d5. White aims to build a very strong center. The plan is to undermine White's control of the center. Most people at the beginner and intermediate level do not know how to deal with this dynamic opening. So they make big mistakes within the opening which ruins their positional play. Our primary aim is to get the light squared bishop outside the pawn chain and then close the pawn chain and develop the dark squared bishop. Already it is very difficult to control the center for White, which gives you a very good advantage in the opening, middle game and throughout the endgame. In some positions, this central pawn formation is so strong that your king can stay in the center without being attacked. That is the specialty of the Caro Kann. Already you have that open file for your rook, and there are many weaknesses in the white position. The ultimate aim is to park the knight on squares like f5 and g6, which will pressure the white center. And this is very hard to defend for White. Squares like c7 are very good for the black queen, and from there it can never be attacked by any white piece. If you are very confident while playing with black, in such positions you can even launch attacks like h5 and then h4. These will attack the castle king of white. Your king is very safe in the center, behind the triangular formation of defensive pawns. White has a lot of positional weaknesses. For example, the queen side is overextended and can be easily undermined. We should prioritize the attack on the light squares, because White traded off their light squared bishop for our knight. This is the Panov-Botvinnik attack from the exchange variation of the Caro Kann. After the exchange on d5, c4 marks an attack, and if we take that pawn, it will help their bishop to develop easily. Therefore, we should develop our kingside knight to its natural square. In such positions, I prefer to pin the knight to the queen. After this, we can close the pawn chain and then develop our dark squared bishop. White should focus to keep their dark square and light squared bishops, and if they exchange it for our knight, it is obviously beneficial for us. Even though this position is boring, you have still neutralized the attack of White, which can be considered a big win for you, playing as black. Some beginners do not know how to respond to the Caro Kann, and they just play stupid openings like the King's Gambit.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
As a general rule of thumb, when someone in the opening attacks in the flanks, it is best to strike at the center. I absolutely enjoy playing such positions with black, because first of all it is very solid and you can get your pieces out early, and even you can start some attacks on the king side. Rook often gets some open files which can put pressure on the opponent. In this position, even though white still has a dark square bishop, it is still very difficult to protect their king across that particular dark square diagonal. If they take with the knight, you have a clearly better position. I bet some of your opponents will make mistakes like this. And even if they do not make such stupid mistakes, it is very hard for them to develop normally, and you have a very strong position. The classical is one of the most standardized ways in which white can respond to the Caro Kann. And there are many other variations and even gambits like the alien gambit, which can arise from these positions, or the martial gambit. And it is very difficult to fight off white in such an opening because it is very versatile. In the tactic hour, I recommend you to take with the e-pawn because it can easily open up your bishop and fasten up your development. And the plan is to develop your knight, then castle on the king side. And there are no other easy tricks like gift sacrifice, because that pawn acts as a very supreme defender to your king. This deadly battery created by the dark square bishop and the queen will constantly put pressure on your opponent's king side and makes it very hard for them to develop. White will always strive to have some connected rooks in their back rank. So you should try to connect your rooks by lifting up the queen and the other minor pieces. And this will challenge white's open files. And remember to not take the rook, because once they recapture, they will get full control of the open file once again. Once every single piece is completely developed, then you can launch a devastating kingside attack. And there are multiple traps in which white can fall. While attacking, remember to keep your minor pieces behind the pawn storm, so that they can assist the marching pawns in moving forward. And also, techniques like the rook lift are very useful in such attacks. And also, pawn sacrifices are important as well. In the anti-Caro Kann, white aims to destroy your complete control of the center. But this can also benefit you in some ways, like the fact that you can develop your pieces easily and rapidly. This is very similar to the Scandinavian defense. And also, you can delay the capture of the central pawn by developing your knight first. There are many other different ways in which you can play such similar positions. Always remember to pin the white knight once it arrives on f3. This will put pressure on the white position. In such positions, always remember to develop your minor pieces as quickly as possible, and you can castle either long or short, and then remember to connect your rooks. One good thing about the Caro Kann is that you just cannot play garbage against it, because it is so solid that you will get easily punished. This position is very similar to the tactical defense of the extreme variation of the Caro Kann, with the added bonus that the knight exerts an additional tempo on the light squared bishop of white. Even the most aggressive person cannot attack your position easily. Watch this part very carefully because this is going to appear in most of your games playing the Caro Kann. After the exchange, White goes for knight f3 rather than the Panov bottom-winning attack with c4. Focus to develop normally and pin that knight whenever you can. Just develop quick and castle. Then connect your rooks. In such positions, I consider the light squared bishop of black to be better than the white knight, and therefore I do not like to exchange it. In the intermediate and advanced level, you can see a very tricky opening in the form of the fantasy variation of the Caro Kann. f3 is the move which marks it. I like to take the pawn and then play e5. This utilizes the weak diagonal of the white king. Knight f3 is the correct way to defend this, but most people do not know that and they fall into multiple traps. This opening leaves you in a very tactical opening middle game phase. Knight f3 is the correct way to play this from the white perspective. Then you can just pin the knight to the queen. And if they capture the pawn on e5, then you can go for an endgame where you have immense pressure on the white position. Even the move castling comes with an additional tempo. You can also put your knight on squares like g6, which can pressure the opponent's position. It is physically impossible for white to defend that e5 pawn, and it will be an asset for you in the endgame. And also there are countless weaknesses in the white position. The bishop opening is very solid against e4 e5, but against the Caro Kann it does not work. Such an opening violates opening principles from the white position, and you have an early lead in development as well as central control. What more can you ask for? I consider the advanced variation as the most aggressive response from white. The plan is very similar as before. Just pin the knight, develop your minor pieces and castle. Advanced Caro Kann c3 variation. c3 aims for a solid approach by white. Pin the knight with your light squared bishop, close the pawn chain, develop the minor pieces and castle. With that, the beginner repertoire of the Caro Kann is completed.